Hi everyone, welcome back to Battlefield 1 Multiplayer. Today we're going to be talking about the medic class, which is my second most used class in this game. It's absolutely fantastic. As it would imply, the medic class heals people in two different ways. It can revive people, and it can also just do straight heals to those who are alive. There's also the option to have rifle launched grenades, which I'll cover, but I don't really use them, so I can't really tell you how great they are or not. And it uses a semi-automatic rifle, but there is the option to go automatic on a couple of them, and I'll talk about that later. But first and foremost, I want to talk about reviving. You do it with the syringe. The syringe has 3 uses, then it needs to recharge, but if you stand near an ammo box from the support class, then it'll let you get back to those 3 heals faster. There are a couple of rules on who you can revive. One, they have to be revivable at that time, which means that they can't have skipped the revive period, which is one of the most frustrating things as a medic, to watch one of your teammates just decide that they don't want to get revived. They can't have been stabbed or clubbed or any sort of melee kill and gotten an animation from the enemy. So when I got hit with that bayonet charge there, I was dead for good. I could not be revived in that case because there was a bit of an animation. That sucks. They can't have been on equipment, so they can't have been in a field gun or on a mortar or inside a tank, and they then be revived. And they can't have died recently and been revived. So I think it's like 30 seconds between revives, 40 seconds between revives that they have to just stay alive. So if you meet all the criteria that are not those things, you've just died, you've been shot just standing out in the open like that guy was, then you can be revived. If you die from fire, you can be revived. If you're in gas, you can be revived. The game does not put a lot of limitations on when you can be revived. There's only those few. So fantastic, right? Now, the ability to skip revives, like I said, is one of the more annoying things if you're playing medic, because oftentimes people will just start holding the skip button as soon as they die. And this will put them back at the respawn screen, and they'll be able to, I think a lot of people do it so they can possibly get into vehicles, because it's first come first serve on those things, even if they can't respawn immediately. But if you don't wait through the respawn timer, you have to wait on the respawn screen for a couple of seconds. So you're often better off just sitting on that screen, unless you were in a spot where there's no one else from your team, or there's no medics nearby or anything like that. Then there's not really a great point in sticking around and just looking at your corpse for, I think it's like 20 seconds. Anyways, that's syringes. Syringes are fantastic. Use syringes if you're playing medic. The other thing I suggest using is the bandage bag. Now, there's also the medical crate, and the medical crate does similar things to the bandage bag. And the bandage bag, as you'll see in a moment, is just something you throw down. It only affects one individual, but it heals them basically completely over time. Like you can see, I just get health back in chunks here standing on my own bandage bag. The medical crate does the same thing, but it does it over a wider area, and it does it for multiple people at a time, but there's a maximum number of heals from that thing. So somebody might step on it and not get healed all the way up, which is unfortunate. I don't know. I cut some weird shit. A little bit of editing issues right there, where I ended up stabbing a guy, but you don't see it. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so I use the bandage bag. Bandage bag's fantastic. Just throw it down, heal yourself up, heal other players who are nearby. You can spam the damn thing and get like a ton of points just going from point to point or whatever it is. And of course, to round out the class, there are still more gadgets. In this case, rifle launched grenades. I don't use rifle launched grenades, as I mentioned earlier. There's several varieties, frag, high explosive. I cut out this fucking syringe kill. I can't believe I did that. But frag and high explosive are kind of the two you'll see the most. Frag obviously are meant to be used against infantry, high explosive against vehicles. That's really the only class-specific tool medics have to deal with vehicles, are high explosive grenades. They're not great. They do less damage than a mortar or a crossbow grenade does. So they're like 8 damage or something like that. Not very good. You're better off just carrying a light anti-tank grenade and using that if you really feel like you need to take out a vehicle with the medic class. That said, there's also smoke grenades, and I think there's a gas launched grenade or something like that. There's a couple of different options. But the real idea here, and the one I think DICE is trying to kind of enforce with those grenade options, is just make sure people, and as many people playing medic as possible, are using the healing items. They're using the bandage bags. They're using the revive kits or the syringes. And I think that's the right play, because the medic is a class that basically anyone can play and do well as. It's like me playing Overwatch. I'll often play healer in Overwatch just because I can do well as a healer no matter what. In this game, it's pretty easy to just run around reviving people, throwing out health for people, and getting a decent amount of points. You'll see, actually, from this match that I recorded, I ended up like second on my team towards the end, and I just had 8 kills total. Like, not many kills, and I was still second on the team. Scored a lot of points. Of course, the team was losing miserably, so that does say something. But this kind of gets the point of the meta class, is that it can really sustain your charges. It can sustain your defenses or captures of a point by suddenly giving you a series of people to use on that point that you'd either have to wait some time for them to respawn, or you'd have to hope there's someone nearby for them to respawn on. So by reviving people, keeping people alive with health packs, you really do help the team quite a bit. And, the points sort of show that when you look at the tallies at the end of the game. You can do really well for yourself with just revives and heals. That said, the weapons for the meta class are not slouches by any means of the imagination. The semi-automatic rifles are all pretty decent. There are some obvious deficiencies with certain ones, but the rifles are good weapons. I do like them. I tend to use this weapon here, the Salvariati Trench. It is a semi-auto rifle like all the others, but it can be put into a full auto mode. The full auto mode is kind of weak with this weapon, mostly because it has a 10-round magazine. So you can see there, if you're counting off rounds or paying attention, if you just want to load like 5 rounds or the full 10 rounds, you can reload pretty quickly. But if you fire like 2 rounds, you have to load those back in by hand. And I mean individually in that case. So sometimes you'll get caught in these reload situations when you're using especially the full auto version of the weapon. I cannot believe you have to charge the syringe to get a kill with it. And I always forget that when I play this game. So I often get like hits with it, but I don't get kills. You don't have to charge it to bring people back though. So that's always good. But yeah, the 10-round magazine is kind of the weakness of the weapon. There are weapons obviously in the class that have much larger magazines, which is very helpful. They can even be put into full auto mode. Now, the downside to full auto mode with a semi-automatic weapon is that it's just simply not as accurate. Right there, look at that. 85 something points. It would have been like 3rd or 4th on their team. Not bad. On the enemy team, I should say. So if I was on the winning team, I would have been like 3rd or 4th. That would have been fun. But anyways, you can see there kind of the weakness of them is that there's no real great hip fire, which means that the meta class is very susceptible to becoming very weak against, say, an assault or support outside of the gas clouds. So if someone's throwing down a lot, that guy just completely whiffed on that charge, then I get fucking stab kill, yeah. Anyways, yeah, if there's a cloud of gas or anything down like that, and you have to put on your gas mask, you might be in a pretty bad spot with this class. If you're like me and you're constantly moving and you're hip firing and all this other stuff, you're probably already in trouble anyways. I'm not the greatest with the weapons of this class. I just really like using this class for reviving, healing. I feel like as someone who plays by themselves a lot, because I often play at weird hours where the people I usually play with aren't around. But as somebody who doesn't often play with a core group of people communicating, the medic class is one of those classes where I can just show up, be useful for the team, keep people alive, keep charges going, and just overall do okay for myself, without obviously going off into the hills and sniping or anything like that. Very good class for that sort of thing. And the class is kept fairly simple. Like I said, the grenade launchers aren't great, but this is a class that is really trying to guide you towards using the medical web tools available to it. And it's an interesting point because when I played Battlefield 4, this class in Battlefield 4, outside of the rifle type, wasn't dissimilar to this. You had the revive tools, you had the healing items, and you had grenade launchers. You saw a lot more grenade launchers in Battlefield 4 than you do in this game. I feel like the medic tools are really, the classic medic tools in this game. There's not a great reason in a lot of cases to use the grenade launchers, which is fine by me, like I said. Semi-automatic weapons are pretty solid in this game. Like I said, they do decent damage. They're really meant for the mid-range. They'll probably take out most LMG users. They'll probably do okay-ish against scouts who are out of their element, but they are going to get torn up by assault class players. You might get a couple of decent kills on them, but yeah, overall, it's really meant to be kind of second line stuff. Like, you should not be the first person through the breach with a medic class. You can do it. I've seen people do it. Some people do it very well. My own play style means that I'm often front lines everything. God, that was so fucking horrible. I feel bad about putting it in this video. But yeah, medic, great class. Highly suggest using it if you like to play this game. If you're not great with support or anything like that, this is a really good class, even if you're not good with guns. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. I will see you next time.